Hi, I'm Lyle. I'm part of the project team for strategic planning at the Huon Valley Council. I'm going to explain a little bit about planning in general, what it means for you, but also what's coming up in terms of the local provision schedule, which is part of the Tasmanian planning scheme. We've been directed as the council to advertise this between the 24th of Jan and the 30th of March. And this video will explain a little bit more about that, what it means for you and what you need to do in terms of looking at what's proposed and potentially making a representation. So planning is essentially where we, as the planning authority, that being council, and I will jump between those terms being planning authority and council, but essentially they refer to the same thing, which is Huon Valley Council. We try and define what the valley is going to look like in the future and how land and places are going to be used. This is done principally through zones and codes, and these zones and codes tell you what you are permitted to do, what you may be able to do, and what you can't do in terms of uses on your land. The Tasmanian planning scheme is made up of two major components. Those are the state planning policies, or SPPs, and the local provisions schedule, which is the LPS. Those two tools together make the Tasmanian planning scheme. The intention of the TPS, or the Tasmanian planning scheme, is to deliver consistency and planning controls across the state. Every local municipal area has to, through the planning authority, which is the local council, has to adopt local provision schedules as part of this process. So one of the biggest things that's coming up in the next few weeks is that our draft local provisions schedule, which I'll refer to as the LPS, will soon be exhibited for public consultation and comment. This is principally through exhibiting what is being proposed and then making a formal representation. Now, this is going to get rather technical, so I'm going to try and use a number of acronyms. So for the purposes of that, a local provision schedule will be referred to as an LPS, state planning policies will be referred to as SPPs, and from hopefully that will take out the confusion. So what essentially is happening is the Tasmanian Planning Commission, which I refer to as the TPC, has instructed us to exhibit our draft LPS. The draft LPS contains a number of zones and codes, as well as a few other planning tools that are being applied to the Huon Valley. This is directly linked to the SPPs, which describes the zones, the objectives of the zones, and the uses that are permitted, discretionary, and prohibited in those zones, as well as a range of assessment criteria that planners need to refer to when assessing a development application. So the importance of this is that this is a new scheme. This scheme is not a translation of the interim planning scheme, which is currently in operation within the Huon Valley. It is a new scheme. There are some new zones, there are new codes, and there are new assessment criteria. It is really important that you review these, and you review these in respect of your land that you potentially own or manage, or even the places that you care about. Because ultimately, what is proposed for that land in terms of zones, codes, and other planning tools will have a direct bearing on what can happen on those areas. Even broadly from a strategic level, have a look at your town that you live in, or the area that you live in, the region, and what is being proposed in terms of the range of zones in that area, because ultimately that shows you what's going to happen in terms of the future direction of development, use, and just general town planning, I guess, in that area. So the purpose of this video is for us to encourage you to really have a look at that and to make a representation if you feel that it is necessary. In order for a representation to be valid, there's a number of minimum criteria that need to be met and things included in your representation, and I'm going to quickly read them off the list now. The first and most important one is that it must be lodged in the exhibition date period, which is the 24th of January to the 30th of March 2022. It needs to be in writing, so it cannot be verbally. You can't go to customer service and say it verbally. It needs to be either via email or in hard copy, or via our online form that we as Huon Valley Council will make available on our website. You need to clearly identify yourself in terms of your name and your address, although you do not need to live in the Huon Valley to make a representation. It needs to be signed and dated. Our online form will have a section for that to happen. Otherwise, on your email or in your hard copy rep, please make sure you date it and make sure that you sign it off. It also needs to be in relation to the content of the LPS. It cannot be about the SPPs. That was a process that was followed by state government a number of years ago, and there was a public engagement process as part of that. The purpose of this exhibition is to look at what is proposed in the LPS and make comments on that. And finally, if you are representing an incorporated body or an unincorporated body, you need to make sure that you either provide evidence of your authority to make that representation or your nomination to make that representation. You as the community can access the Draft LPS on a variety of platforms. That'll be the Huon Valley Council website. It'll be hard copy at the Customer Service Building at 40 Main Street, Huonville, and also through a portal, which is an online mapping program, and that'll be linked via our website. I would suggest looking at the portal first. The nice thing about it is it's rather easy to navigate. It has all the planning tools proposed for various areas on it, and one can click and turn on or turn off various layers to determine what exactly is being proposed in particular areas. Failing that, the hard copies, while they will be available, we would encourage you to limit accessing them given the COVID restrictions that are currently in place. Rather, hop onto our website and download the PDF maps that will be on there. There will also be the supporting report that was submitted to the Commission, as well as various attachments, in total 66 attachments, that then support the position taken by the Planning Authority in placing various zones and codes on various properties. As I'm sure you've worked out, the planning can be a rather technical process. And as part of making a representation, it's important that you include the minimum amounts of information to make it valid, as well as enough information to bring your point across. If anything is unclear, it's important that you go and get further professional advice from a planning consultant. If you jump on Google, put in Planning Consultant Tasmania, a range of options will be shown to you.